Well, hello there, students. I hope you are doing well. This video will deal with the topic of graphing a line from its intercepts. All right, so we'll be graphing linear equations, and these will all be written in standard form, and just to give us an idea of how you use the intercepts to graph a line. Okay, so let's get started on our first example, and that will be negative x plus 3y equals negative 6. That's standard form for a linear equation, and so what I'm going to do is take advantage of these two very important facts. The first one is that the x-intercept of a graph is where y equals 0. And the second fact is that the y-intercept of a graph is where x equals 0. Notice I said of a graph. It does not have to be just a line. This is true for every kind of graph. Lines, curves, circles, even things that are not really even technically functions. These facts are true, and they will be true the rest of your days as you study mathematics. There is no exception to these little rules here. These are kind of what those points are defined as. So as long as you study mathematics, you will need these two facts. And then when your kids get into school, if you have kids, and they start studying math in school, they will use these same two facts. So don't forget them. They will be with you forever. Okay? So let's take advantage of that and set up just a little table and put a 0 in for y and a 0 in for x, and we'll figure out those two intercepts. That's all we're going to need to graph the line, as you will see. So by putting a 0 in for y, I can see that x is going to have to be 6, and when I put a 0 in for x, I see that y has to be negative 2. Just a little mental math there, and you might want to just stop and think about that for a second if you're not sure. Okay? Hopefully it'll make sense. Now I'm ready to graph the line. There's my x and y axes. I'm going to mark off the x-intercept and the y-intercept. There they are, 6 and negative 2. And I draw the line, and voila. That's all I need to do. 2 points. That's good enough. Okay, let's try another one since we have some room here. Let's try 2x plus 4y equals 8. Again, that is the standard form for a linear equation. So I'll find my two x-intercepts here. Y equals 0, x equals 0. Kind of do the mental math there. If y equals 0, that means 2 times 4 equals 8. And if x equals 0, that means 4 times 2 equals 8. So there's my two intercepts, 4, 0, and 0, 2. So I'll plot those out. There's my two intercepts, and I'm ready to graph the line, and voila, we're done with that. It's really not too bad. It's very easy, especially in these kinds of equations where the numbers themselves are fairly easy. But the point that I want to make here now is that even if the numbers are not that friendly, you can still take advantage of the fact that the x-intercept is where y equals 0, and the y-intercept is where x equals 0, and you can actually have some pretty easy mathematics to deal with, even in an equation like that, where you have the numbers that are not that simple. 12x plus 45y equals 270. Okay, so there's our table with y equals 0, x equals 0, and we're just going to find those two values there, one for x and one for y, and we'll plot our points. Let's just try it now. Now, if I let y equals 0, okay, replacing y with 0, 45 times 0 is 0, so my equation really quickly simplifies down to 12x equals 270. And if you divide both sides by 12, you'll get x equals 22.5. And yes, I used a calculator for that. I am not ashamed to say that, so don't worry about it. Use a calculator if you need to. So there is my x-intercept, 22.5. So now let's try this for the y-intercept. I'll let x equals 0, and you can just as easily see that if 12 times 0, that equals 0. So that means I have just 45y equals 270. I'll divide both sides by 45 to get y equals 6. And there's my y-intercept. So I'm going to plot those 2 points and draw the line, just like on the other two examples. However, let me just stop here for a moment and give you a little bit of strategy that will help graphing these lines. Notice that my x-intercept is kind of a large number, larger than normal perhaps. And so when I draw my axes, I want to just notice that and give myself enough room to plot that point. So I'm going to make my y-axis kind of over to the left the left side there, because I need a lot of room there to go all the way out to 22.5 on my x-axis. And so I'll put my x-axis down there now towards the bottom of the graph, or bottom of the page there, and I'll mark off 5, 10, 15, 20, 22.5. That orange dot out there is 22.5. So I needed plenty of room there. So that helped me to look at those intercepts before I even drew the x and y axes. Okay, so take advantage of that little strategy there when you're trying to do this on your own paper. The y-intercept is positive 6, so that's not too bad. And there I have my two intercepts, and I can draw the line, and voila, we're done. Okay, so that one took a little bit more calculations and a little bit of planning to get a nice graph there, but it really wasn't too hard at all. You can do that, I know. Just remember, students, that the two most important facts of this little video are that the x-intercept of a graph is where y equals 0. That may be more profound than it seems, but try to remember that at all times. And just as important, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. Okay? So remember those things. Remember this process of plugging in 0 for x or for y, and you can find your intercepts, and you only need 2 points to graph a line, and it's a pretty good method. All right, so be well and go do some really good math. Bye-bye.